Eduardo Mortara wins in Diriyah.
When the sun set in Diriyah,
darkness descends quickly. Fear has no place here.
So it's Bird to win the first race. It's Bird!
Many will fail. One will succeed.
Stoffel Van Dorn is the world champion.
stepping out of the shadows.
Jake Dennis wins! The first winner of season 9.
And into the lights.
Hello everyone and welcome to qualifying for round 2 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. We are in Diriyah, which is several kilometers north of the Saudi Arabian capital of Riyadh. It is a beautiful day here, it really is. The sun is shining. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a beautiful place to be. Qualifying is just around the corner. We've got round 1 of this World Championship in the can. Mexico was very exciting, Oliver, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Jake behind us, having one of his biggest margins of victory that he's ever had, the 7th that we've seen in Formula E history. Gorgeous afternoon here in Diriyah. Excited to see some lap times fall here in qualifying. This is the session that counts.
Everyone was worried at the start of the first race in Mexico City about the brand new car, the Gen 3 car. There was lots of hype surrounding it. There were several technical issues which needed to be dealt with, but it proved its worth.
Sure, and the development is it's a development race here for these teams and these drivers. Who can get on top of it the quickest? This track, though, completely different to Mexico.
Yeah, free practice 2 was really interesting. We saw, get this, ladies and gentlemen, a Neo at the top of the table. Ah!
By 2/10.
Yes! Outrageous!
I don't think we're going to see that margin in qualifying. It's going to be super tight, but I would be surprised to not see both of those cars in the duels.
Yeah, bravo Dan Tickton, one of the exciting drivers that we have here on the grid, as is Jake Hughes, one of the new drivers, a rookie for the McLaren Neon team, and he is with Nicky Shields, and they chatted earlier on today.
Well, after a rather attention-grabbing rookie performance from Jake Hughes, he managed to finish 5th in his debut performance for Neon McLaren. Jake, was that just the perfect start?
Not quite perfect enough. 4 more places would have been perfect, but no, it was pretty good. That being said, qualifying 3rd, running 3rd, had a chance to probably get ahead of Lucas with the 2nd activation and probably get up into 2nd. So finishing 5th at the time for the 20 minutes after the race felt like a bit of a disappointment, but actually, when everything cooled down, I was pretty happy.
You couldn't quite manage to pass Lucas di Grassi. Is that because you were scared of pushing too much and you just wanted to kind of keep control of the race and not sacrifice everything, or was he just quicker than you?
I think, to be honest, I think I had a little bit more pace than him, especially in the middle part of the race, but he was just quicker in the right areas. So I couldn't get close enough out of the exit of the back straight corner, for example, turn 5 and 6 in Mexico, into one of the most, or the main overtaking place. I couldn't quite get close enough. So he was defending really well. Someone like Lucas did enough races in Formula E now to know where to put the car.
What I also loved is in the driver's room after the race, you came out literally helmet off and went up to the guys and was like, wow, is that Formula E? That was the hardest race of your life.
It's the hardest race we've done. It's not from me.
Were you taken by surprise at how physically demanding the race was?
I come to expect it. I was, warned about it in general. I've been around the paddock for 2 or 3 years, so I sort of know like how tough it is. But it's always different when you get out into your own race car, right? I was taken back by how much you had to manage under so much pressure from, I had Lucas ahead of me, Andre right behind me, nose to tail. In other formulas I've driven, you can have 3 or 4 seconds in front, 3 or 4 seconds behind, have as much time as you want to look at your dash and manage your tyres. And here you just don't have that. You have walls waiting for you to welcome you if you make a mistake as well. And after 45, 50 minutes or whatever it was, I was pretty, I don't want to say drained, but yeah, it was challenging mentally.
So is qualifying everything, and can you improve on qualifying 3rd?
It's been quite smooth for me so far in Formula E in terms of pace. I had a good qualifying in Mexico, as you say, a good race result as well. But I'm very much aware that it's not always going to be that way in Formula E. There's some every driver here is world class. No, I'm staying open-minded, and let's see. But I think we have a good car underneath us, so let's hopefully we can get on the front row.
Excellent. Jake, thanks so much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
And good luck for qualifying. Hopefully it's not just beginner's luck.
Hopefully. Thank you.
I'm joined here at the pad by Sam Bird, former winner here, and Sam, your 100th race today. Let's take a look at this fantastic circuit, because I have to say I'm pretty jealous that I'm not driving. It looks great fun to drive.
It is really good fun, Karun. So, yeah, 100th race. We were together in my first race and your first race.
Indeed. Let's get into it. So, the first corner here, this really sets you up for the first sector, isn't it? Because it's one corner into the other.
Absolutely. This circuit, you're always manipulating the car, always changing direction. So you've got to have a car that's quite compliant on change of direction. I found in that session that I really struggled with front end grip. And you can see that the front end is just sliding across the surface. This is due to a little bit of setup changes, but also, if you can see, Karun, that the surface is a little bit shinier today and a little bit lighter. That's because sand has actually come on the circuit overnight, because we're out here in Saudi, and just made the track a little bit more slick this morning.
So we've gone through this real sequence of corners, but the steering wheel's never really straight. But talk me through turn 14, because you've gone through the sequence and you've just got to try and get it stopped and calm it all down, it seems, for the tight right-hander here.
Yeah, so this corner is actually really key. It's very easy to overdrive turn 14, and it's really critical you get a good exit out of there, good traction. That should set you up, hopefully, for a good sector 3. And I think the next corner that we're going to go to is absolutely key in the lap. It's so easy to underbrake and so easy to brake too late and make mistakes. And apparently, a couple of people made mistakes this session.
I want to ask you about that, because you've got an interesting line here. I'm looking at your hands, and you're absolutely straight at this point, which, you know, is this a conscious thing where you're just trying to settle the car and use a tighter line than other people?
Absolutely. I just feel like if I then try and bring it back to the left-hand side, okay, I could be in a better position to open the corner up, but what I'm doing there is just calming the car down to make sure that everything's in a straight line to maximize my braking potential and then get to turn in. I found that that was probably more consistent. It might not be absolutely the best to the 1,000th of a second, but I found it was slightly better.
Okay, listen, we're coming into the final sector of the lap, but this is a huge challenge for you guys. All the very best for qualifying. You were quickest in free practice 1, top 5 in free practice 2. Good luck for quali.
Thank you, Karun. Cheers.
So a huge opportunity for Sam Bird, but the general consensus here, by the way, is that the championship won't be won here, but it could potentially be lost in Saudi Arabia in terms of staying in contention. And speaking to the Jag guys behind me here, they're talking about it could possibly come down to making the all-important duels. And that's for two main reasons. Number one, the track is dusty, and that makes it unpredictable, compounded by the fact that there are a few opportunities to overtake. But in terms of Sam Bird, all is not lost. We know his car's quick. We know that because in Mexico, 3 of the cars that share his powertrain, they came inside the top 10. We know that he's quick, and he's quick here. We saw that in free practice 1. So it's all on the line here for an absolutely captivating and fascinating qualification here in Saudi.
We're about to get going for the second qualifying session of the season, round 2 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. And this is the 2023 CORE Diriyah E-Prix. And very interested to see what this session is going to bring us, because it was unbelievably tight in the free practice 2 session we had about an hour and a half ago. Less than a second covering the top 18 drivers, and the drivers outside of the 18 all had excuses, as it were. So it'll be the odd number drivers in the championship that will be taking in this first group. So first, third, fifth, etc., all the way down. Lucas Di Grassi was very impressive in the last race, getting into the duels. Jake Dennis was the man who won the E-Prix in the end. But Max Günther and both Maseratis in this group, they need to try and get into the duels for the first time. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me is the former Andretti driver Oliver Askew, and the flag goes, the light goes green at the end of the pit lane. Basically, we have a 12-minute session for this group. The top 4 advance to the knockout stages. Then we do another group, and the top 4 there subsequently advance to the knockout stages. And Oliver, everybody straight out on circuit. Very different conditions right now to what the race will be later as well.
very different, but in the race, you're energy saving. And that alone changes the balance of the car. So the all-important qualifying session here, as we've seen in the Gen 3 era, it's a bit more difficult to pass when we go racing. So drivers will be doing their best here to start at the front of the grid. I spoke to Mitch Evans before he got in his car. Obviously, I believe he's in the second group here. He said there's going to be a mixed bag of tire strategies here. Some cars staying on track, some cars pitting for a fresher set of Hankook tires. So we'll see which strategy reigns.
Well, Dan Ticktum is out on circuit here. He's at the front in this Neo with the funky helmet design coming into turns 18 and 19. He was quickest in free practice 1. The first time that Neo have topped a session in a long time. They have had 2 pole positions in Formula E, both in season 3. They hadn't had any appearances in the top 4 in any session last season, but in the 4 practice sessions we've had here, they've had a car in all 4 of them. So a real change of pace for Neo this year, and Ticktum looking strong and confident as he starts his run down the bobsleigh. The quickest laps won't come until the very end of this session, but they're still going to be pushing and still going to be learning as they come down the hill in towards turn 14, the bottom of the hill here, and that sequence of corners really fun to drive.
Even last year, Dan just had such a good connection with this track. He's a driver, he's a street course expert, I would say, with multiple Macau wins. This series suiting him very well, and this track with 0 margin for error seems to be suiting him well, and obviously that car is performing much better than it has in previous seasons with his teammate up there as well.
So less than 10 minutes to go. Ticktum will be the first driver to set the lap time. He's also quickest in sectors 1 and sectors 2 compared to everybody else, although no one else is on a push lap actually so far. Everybody else has come out and is a couple of seconds down in sectors 1 and sectors 2. So a 12.4 for Ticktum. He did a 10.0 earlier on this morning. Alex Hui, the team principal of the Neo 333 team. As you can see, Roland across the line, 7 seconds slower. And no one else is pushing straight away. Dennis, Hughes and Cassidy have only just left the pits. Actually, Hughes is just starting a lap, so this might be a push lap for Hughes as he comes into the left-hander. Now into the right-hander. This looks like he's pushing, actually, a little bit. And qualified 3rd for the opening race of the season in Mexico City, but I think it's fair to say that the McLaren hasn't had a huge amount of pace here. René Rast 8th quickest, Hughes 10th quickest in free practice 2. Here comes the fun stuff. Clattering over the curbs. He's quicker than Ticktum in sector 1 by 0.4 of a second here, Jake Hughes.
Still the track nowhere near the condition it will be in at the end of the session. No support series here with us, so since free practice 2 there hasn't been anything on track, and with the dusty nature of Riyadh, there tends to be some dust on the track when these sessions begin. So all these cars are doing now is just cleaning that dust off. These drivers getting warmed up, finding their marks. As you see, Hughes just understeering, missing the apex there in the final corner.
Still goes quickest for what it's worth in these early stages. Fun onboard lap there with Jake Hughes. Here's Sasha Fenestraz, who's a 1/4 of a second up on Hughes in the Nissan with the cherry blossom on the rear of the car. As you can see, the sun beginning to sort of set. Comes into the final corner now and across the line, and Fenestraz goes quickest, a 1 minute 11.169. So the lap time's coming down. Gunter's in the wall at the bottom of the hill, and that is, I think, turn 11.
I believe that is.
And he has gone in pretty heavily, shakes his head. He was looking quick at the end of free practice 2, but crashed and put it in the wall and gave the mechanics a big repair job. But unfortunately, the same has happened again. Red flag from Scott Elkins in race control. And disbelief for James Rossiter, the team principal. Here's a look at what happened, Oliver. Oh, it's way too much speed. Something must have gone wrong earlier than that. Here's his radio.
Crash crashed. Yeah, you okay, Max? Are you okay?
So didn't mention anything wrong with the car. May have been pushing too soon. Could have lost the car in the brake zone. Let's see if we can get a different angle of that. But not a soft hit there. That's a very high speed entry.
Well, I think that Tech Pro is new this year, because I think we've seen Freitz and Lotterer go in there over the last couple of years, and it's just been concrete. There you can see Gunther. He's waiting in the car until he's told by the FIA he's good to get out. But you can see the disappointment in the German's eyes.
Not a good feeling.
He does have a not exactly win it or bin it, but there is some element of that sometimes with Gunther. Busy afternoon for the mechanics, who've just finished rebuilding his car after free practice 2, and now they know they've got an even bigger job, ready to go to get him ready for the race in what, a little over 4 hours time.
Their eyes are glued to the TV screen, trying to figure out which parts that they need to get ready. A lot of these teams already have pieces pre-built and corners pre-built. So, but we'll see. It's not that much time between qualifying and the race.
No, it depends where they can take the car back to now as well. Because if they get it back to the pit lane now, they'll get an extra hour. Whereas if they just take the car back there, then they'll have an hour waiting. Might need a little bit of Tech Pro rebuild as well, potentially down there. Here's his radio.
Hey Max, this is Scott from Race Control. Feel free to get out of the car. The marshal's now in attendance, and they're going to recover the car. Let us know if you need any medical assistance.
Copy. Yeah, I'm all good. Don't worry about me.
So chat between Scott Elkins, the man in the middle there, and Gunther. Gunther saying he's all good, and he will head back to the pit lane. Right, let's see it again then for Gunther. Here he is arriving. He's all locked up on the left front. Oh, that's a big hit. It's a big hit for Gunther. Let's see if we can work out sort of what went wrong on the way in. There he comes. Just too much speed. Just gone in way too hot.
You saw the left front lock. So maybe just too late of a braking point. Obviously the track was nowhere near, like I said, nowhere near. It's in a clean state, in a quick state.
That was his first push lap as well. So he's done his out lap and then first push lap in the barriers, as you can see.
Yeah, it's going to be a big repair job here. It's not only to the car, but to the track.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a delay for drivers in this first quali session.
It's getting...
The clock has stopped.
Yep, and everybody had set a lap time in that first part of the session, so everybody will be all right on that front. But also, there's naturally can be dispensation because of the red flag. Edoardo Mortara then will be the only Maserati left in the session when it gets back underway. There you can see the front. I mean, it might just be the front right corner, to be perfectly honest. I mean, maybe the front left as well, but the rear looks relatively intact, which is good news. But it just depends whether he's done the tub, basically. It's going to be the question mark. Did you well, there's also actually these days, there's the front motor generator unit too, that is always a bit risky if you go in, you know, front first. Did you have any biggies last year where the mechanics hated you?
I was involved in the group crash in the rain in Seoul, if you remember that one, when everyone went off in the first lap.
Oh yeah.
And that was just caused because the vision was so bad.
Yeah.
And there was a patch in that particular corner that was very slippery.
Yeah.
And I'm just following the car in front of me as a reference, as a braking point reference, and that car doing the same in front.
Yeah.
And so it was a bit of I guess you could say, an accordion effect.
Yeah. Let's go down and catch up with Nikki Shields.
Well, joining me now is the team principal of Maserati MSG, James Oster. First and foremost, I mean, that was a big impact hit. Is Max all right?
He's okay. Straight away from the radio, it was the first thing we asked him. He seems that he's okay, no injuries. Obviously, high-speed accident, a lot of damage. He's not sure what happened, and neither are we at this point. So yeah, we need to see what caused that. But yeah, difficult one to start qualifying.
Really tricky one. Obviously, given the fact that even to get the car ready for the race, I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of analysis done when the car comes back. But do you think it's possible?
Honestly, at this point, we have no idea. Now we've just sent the guys to go and check on the spare chassis, what we'd need to build it up. We're not sure the damage on his race car, so yeah, it's going to be a tough one for the boys this afternoon.
Definitely keeping them busy. And you know, in terms of coming into today's session, how was Max feeling? You know, how's he? Yeah, how was he looking forward to the race?
I think he was. He was really fast at the end of practice. He put in a couple of really good sectors before he boxed at the end of practice, which would have put him first or second. So, yeah, he had a lot of confidence. Yeah, unfortunately, we need to get the car back. We need to analyse the data, see what happened. I think that's the first thing. But just grateful that he's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you've still got the other side of the garage. Edo Mortara is going to. Well, he's had some fantastic performance here in the past. How confident is he feeling today?
Well, I think after what's happened so far, I think I'll reserve judgment on that one. But I think he's in a good place. Let's see what we can do with Edo.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, well, I think we lost Nicky there with James Rossiter. Jean-Eric Byrne sitting in the garage for DS Penske, but yeah, Rossiter, as you'd imagine, fairly low-key after that one, Oliver, because he knows that they've got, well, it sounds like the work started already, hasn't it, next door to the DS Penske team. But yeah, really, really frustrating so early in the session as well, and frustrating for these guys because they don't know how long they've got to hang on for, really, down there, as Eduardo Mortara gets ready to get back going again. At the moment, for whatever it's worth, Fenestraz, Hughes, Mortara and Costa are the four drivers who are in the top four. Let's go back down to Nicky. Well, we're actually going to go down to Radzi. I prefer Radzi anyway. Let's go down to him now.
Well, that's a shot of the Group A leader, Sasha Fenestraz, a very young driver, 23 years old, delighted to be joined by Tommaso Volpe. Tommaso, frustrating situation to be leading and then this to happen.
Yes, definitely, but we hope that Max is fine, first of all. And yeah, the session should start soon, so let's see.
From a mental standpoint, how hard is it to reset and go again, especially when he was doing so well?
Well, qualifying is already very tough because it's all happening in 1-2 laps, really. So keeping focus in these circumstances can be difficult, but they are professional drivers, so this is part of the job, and let's see.
And to add to what you're saying is a lot of people are saying it's an unpredictable track, it's dusty, a lot of things could come down to qualifying, so we really want a good performance to make the duels.
Yeah, plus in this race, more than many others, it's very important to start ahead because of what you said. So it's important to be during the race ahead instead of behind. And let's see. I mean, let's hope we have a good result. Sasha is very fast. He proved it already in Mexico in qualifying. For being a rookie driver, is really impressive. So we are very pleased with that. But fingers crossed, we are still at the beginning of the session.
Is there a sense of pride when you see such a young driver? He's experienced, we know this already, but to come here and perform so well on his debut?
Absolutely, absolutely. I guess, I mean, all credits to him. But so far, we are just at the beginning, of course, and there is a lot to learn for the team and for him. But so far, he proved that we took the right decision when we picked among different rookies that we wanted to have in the team.
Tommaso, thanks for your time and good luck for the rest of qualification.
Thank you very much.
So that's Sasha Fenestraz, who's quickest at the moment, and Tommaso Volpe talking about him. Hopefully we should be getting underway fairly soon. There is the rescue car making its way back to the pit lane. Don't believe the Tech Pro barrier needs replacing down there, so we should be getting underway again fairly shortly. But with just 10 cars left. Now, here we go, on board with the nose.
Just immediately locked the left front.
Yeah.
You can hear it from that onboard, and the braking point, I mean, maybe it was a bit too aggressive too soon. But they won't know until they get the car back to the garage if there was a failure of any sorts or if it was a driver error.
So there is the rescue car returning to the pit lane again. Looks as though the car itself is staying down there, so that'll be a tough one for the team if it is indeed staying down there. We'll see whether they get on the back of the flatbed or not. Here comes Gunter about to hop out of the car and return to the garage. Very disappointed. Hair always looks immaculate when he takes his helmet off, I have to say.
How does he do that?
I don't know. It's
been struggling with that all my life.
You feeling okay?
You haven't even had a helmet on today.
No hand and everything. No, everything good. I mean, goes without saying, really sorry. Don't really understand what happened. I locked the front like quite instantly, and then I was just trying to not get it locked and somehow make the corner, but I just, as a passenger, I felt some understeer and the front not being fully ready in the first few corners. But yeah.
Well, let's wait to see the data and figure out who's anyway.
I try to do it better tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, we'll do. We will.
This is Formula E Unplugged live at the moment. Love that stuff. So yeah, saying really sorry. Felt he had a bit of understeer in the first couple of corners and then locked up. It doesn't feel like Gunter's. I wouldn't say he's expecting to find some information on the data that explains that it wasn't his fault necessarily. I would suggest from that kind of reaction.
No, at this point, no one's going to be placing blame on either side of the garage. I mean, at the end of the day, that car needs to be fixed as soon as possible. It's hard to say if it's going to be ready for the race, but it's hard to believe. That's a lot of damage. They're not getting the car back.
Yeah.
And here's race control.
Session will restart in 5 seconds. And here's Scott Elkins.
Team managers, this is race control. This is about under a 1 minute warning. Under a 1 minute warning.
So that was a little earlier on. Under a minute ago, though, and the session gets back underway. So a bit of a delay, but we're going again. And now, it'll be interesting. I presume now, everyone
has
will
to
just
stay on track.
Yeah, exactly. They'll leave the pits and pound round.
No time to pit and put a fresh set of tires on.
Maybe we'll see Nato, Roland and Fenestraz wait in the pits for a little longer so they can try and do their lap at the peak of the tires, but...
And the track's still dirty.
Yeah.
So the drivers who are last to cross the finish line, we can expect them to have an advantage in track state.
So 6 minutes and 10 seconds to go. Roland remaining in the pit lane. Roland was a driver who did a bit of traffic jiggery pokery, didn't he, a few years ago in the groups, messing up Mitch Evans and I think René Rast's day. But different scenario now, but they will still be fighting, I think, a little bit to be last on track. We haven't seen sort of the nonsense that we saw in the previous years, but it was still quite key to be last on track, was it? And,
yeah.
And how much, you know, because we didn't see too much, you know, messing around.
No, like I said, the car that's going to be last across the finish line to start their final lap. By the time runs out, they're going to have the advantage in track state. I wouldn't say that'll be the case in Group 2, but
right.
In this first session, with the track being a bit dusty, with the winds we have here this afternoon.
Tara crunching the curbs into 11 where his teammate went off. Now down into the bottom of the hill at turn 14, bit wide. First sector for Mortara is 3/10 away from Fenestraz.
Even if you miss the apex by a couple of inches, the grip reduction as you move towards the outside of the track is like a cliff.
Which is something Kelvin van der Linde was saying he couldn't believe, and we'll talk about him a little later, he's making his debut this weekend. He said he couldn't believe how much it's like you've got to be on those train tracks, otherwise you're in trouble.
And this track is notorious for that because of the dust that we're speaking of.
Mortara through the final corner and out across the line. No improvement for him, a second slower than previously. We're on board here with Nick Cassidy, who jumps into second place in the Envision. Hughes now goes fastest in the McLaren. He's followed across the line by Jake Dennis, who goes into second place with 4 minutes and 10 seconds to go. Degrassi jumps up into third spot. Fenestraz still in the pits then. So Fenestraz still in the pits for Nissan, so he's feeling like the peak of the tyres are a bit later than everybody else reckons. So that's an interesting alternate strategy for Fenestraz.
Yeah, he's confident in his ability to go out there and get it done on one lap.
So everybody now, having done their push laps, will cool down a little. Hughes, Dennis, Degrassi, Fenestraz, the top four. Da Costa, Cassidy, Mortara, Roland, Tictum and Nato, the 10 that are still out there. Gunter in the barriers and out of the session.
You could afford a second cool, but it would be tight. You could afford a second.
So Dennis being told you could do a second cool lap if you want, but it would be tight. Tictum nice and wide coming out of turn 14, right up towards the barriers. He's quick after the first two sectors. So is Norman Nato, actually, in the Nissan, so keep an eye on his clock as well down in the bottom right. 3 minutes to go, and it's all about whether, so Tictum here will finish this lap, do a cool and then go again, whereas Dennis is doing a double cool before going again. There really is no unified strategy on the best way to do things. Hughes has pitted, so that's interesting. Presumably, as Tictum goes quickest by 0.2 of a second ahead of Jake Hughes, and Nato goes up into fifth place. Roland's done the fastest first sector of anyone. Here comes the man from Barnsley into turns 18 and 19. Have some wheel spin.
Strange that Hughes is in the pits.
Do you think that, does it cool the tyres better just sitting in the pit lane rather than doing a cool down lap?
No, you want wind on the tyres.
Interesting. 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go. Mortara currently 10th quickest. Maserati MSG 10th and 11th. Oh, Mortara's been in the wall. Eduardo Mortara has been in the wall. Horrible day for Maserati MSG. No points from the opening race of the season in Mexico City. And it's going to be tough to score points this afternoon.
Where's he going to park his car? What happens now with yellows?
I mean, there'll be no yellows at the moment. There'll be a white flag for a slow-moving car. He's on the racing line, Mortara.
He needs to go straight here. Straight.
No one's around him yet, and he's going to make it to the pit lane. And James Rossiter...
Can't believe it.
Can't quite believe this day at the office. It's only his second day in the office. This team principal of Maserati MSG in terms of race day. So Mortara's back in the pit lane, so it won't affect anybody else. And they are all about to start their final flying laps now. Here's Roland.
Hughes 10 seconds back on and out. You're still P1 at the moment. Sector 3, we can find a 10th and a half.
So Roland's still... Here's what happened to Mortara. Oh!
Oh, it's a heavy impact to the left rear.
And he's gone at turn 16 again. Well, we'll get into the Maserati story a little bit later on as he limps back to the pit lane. But now it's about the battle to be in the top four and advance through to the Duels. With 20 seconds left on the clock, here's Dan Tictum. Onto the brakes. Through turns 18 and 19. Out towards the final corner at turn 21. Hughes has done a quick first sector, but everybody else is only starting their laps now, basically, with the checker flag about to fall. Tictum first across the line, and it's second for Dan Tictum in the Neo. Roland still quickest and going quickly. Here comes the Mahindra man. Laid as you like on the brakes into the chicane. Jake Hughes is on a big lap in the McLaren. You can see he's gone purple in sectors 1 and 2. Nato takes the checkered flag and is only 5th. Roland doesn't improve, but he's still quickest. Hughes goes quicker by 0.3 of a second. Jake Hughes quickest at the moment. Roland second, Da Costa's on the bubble. And he's not really improving on this lap. This is Nick Cassidy in the Envision. 9th fastest currently.
Dennis on 2 personal bests.
Cassidy out across the line, gets into 4th place. But he's right on the limit there. Anyone improves, he will be out. Dennis doesn't, he goes 5th. 5th for the championship leader. He's not through to the Duels. Neither is Da Costa. He remains in 6th. De Grassi gets into 4th. Is De Grassi through to the Duels? Fenestrad's across the line. It's only 9th. De Grassi makes it through again. Both Mahindras, Jinx, are through to the Duels. As is Dan Ticktum for Neo 333. And as is Jake Hughes for the Neon McLaren team. Both Maseratis out.
Purple sector 1, purple sector 2, 1/10 sector 3, currently P1 overall. Oh, nice one.
Nice one, says Hughes. Certainly was.
Can't say enough about this guy. He's so consistent. Drove like a veteran in Mexico. And now has a shot at pole position here this afternoon.
So, really good performance. Here's a look again at what happened to Eduardo Mortara. Okay, we're on board with him here, through 11.
Still another couple corners here before turn 16. It all looks pretty tidy. And it's the entry of this corner where he loses the rear of the car. See, just slightly wide as well. Possibly catching some of that dust on entry before he really loaded the car in the middle of the corner.
It's going to be tough for the Maserati because quite often, because quite often if one car's badly damaged, the team from the other car go across and help, but they can't be doing that. Jake Hughes, Oliver Rowland, Dan Ticktum, and Lucas Di Grassi go through to the Duels. Nick Cassidy missing out in 5th. Championship leader Jake Dennis will start on the 6th row of the grid. Maserati MSG, both out. Right, we'll be getting underway with qualifying Group B in a few moments' time. First time that Mahindra have had both cars through to the qualifying duels since this format was invented. Roland actually qualified last in Mexico City. Sasha Fenestraz, straight out the back, he looks a little bit frustrated, doesn't he? As does Jake Dennis. Anyone who's missed out on the duels know they have a tough day ahead of them. Jake Dennis absolutely storming out the back there. Let's go down to Nikki, shall we?
Well, I'm just in the Maserati MSG garage. You can see behind me, we've got the, well, I mean, we did have Alejandro Gag. I don't know if you caught him on camera, but we've also got Edo Mortara's car. I don't know whether you could see how much damage, probably not in detail, a fair amount of damage done to the back here. The engineers have been assessing whether they need to do a complete rebuild of the rear of the car. They haven't made a decision yet, but ultimately, fingers crossed, they're hoping they can repair what is, but it sounds like it's more likely they will have to rebuild the whole of the rear of the car. The question is, are they going to be able to get it back and ready on the track for the race? It's going to be really hard given the fact that they've not got one, but they've got 2 cars to rebuild. And just generally, you can sense the atmosphere. I mean, it really has taken an absolute turn for the worse. So this is, yeah, it's going to be a really, really tough day in the office for these guys. They're going to have to dig deep and work really hard to get the cars, both cars, ready for the race.
Yeah, really tough day for Maserati. Good day so far for Jake Hughes. We'll see whether it'll be a good day as well for Neon McLaren, because Rene Rast will be heading out. He was quicker than Jake Hughes in free practice earlier on today. Rast, who finished 4th in his first race in Diriyah in Season 7, qualified 3rd on the grid. We've also got both Jaguars going out in this next session too. Mitch Evans and Sam Bird. It'll be starting in 90 seconds time, qualifying Group B. And Evans and Bird will both be out on circuit trying to get through to the duels for the first time this season. So we're about to get underway with the second part of qualifying. As you can see, Nico Müller doesn't look like he will be taking part. He had a crash earlier on in free practice for the Abt Cupra team, which is frustrating for him. He's got a, but his new teammate Kelvin van der Linde will be heading out on the circuit.
It's a good view of the internals of the car, changing the drive shaft. Doesn't look like a normal racing car in the back there.
No, absolutely not. No pistons. Rene Rast getting ready to leave the garage in 30 seconds time. So these are the drivers that will be heading out in the second group of qualifying. The Porsche of Wehrlein, the Avalanche Andretti of Lotterer, the Envision of Buemi. Both Jaguars and both DS Penske's have looked quick this weekend, but there's only room for 4 of these in the duels, and Kelvin van der Linde having his first qualifying session in Formula E.
Let's have some fun here. Who's your pick?
I am going... Okay, I'll write it down. Oh, for quickest? Oh, I was going to do all 4. Okay,
we can do that too.
For quickest, I'm going Van Dorn, and I think my other 3 are going to be Sete Camera second, Rast and Bird. Those are my... That's my pick. Yours?
You're going to be surprised by this one. Sete.
Yeah.
Andre.
Okay.
I feel like an Andre guy today.
Yeah.
Bird.
Yeah.
And Buemi.
Buemi. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't think of Buemi.
He's writing them down.
Okay, yeah, I've written them down, and we'll see what happens. That's cute. That's cute. You're over the Andre stuff, because it was getting a bit embarrassing in Mexico.
I was never on it. I was just having some fun.
11 minutes and 10 seconds to go. Pascal Wehrlein hasn't left. You can play along as well, actually, with Formula E Predictor if you scan the QR code in the top left of the screen. It's also live through the duels and stuff too, so it's a lot of fun, the new Formula E Predictor, which you can get on the Formula E app as well if you download. Pascal Wehrlein still in the pits, everybody else out on circuit, and he's just left the pit lane now. So interesting to see what that different strategy does for Porsche, but neither Jaguar, neither DS Penske made it through to the duels in Mexico City. Is there pressure on them to do that here?
It's just one race, and the development of these cars is constantly changing, and we believe to have seen them back in form throughout both free practice sessions, but at the end of the day, this is the one that counts. It's not about putting one purple sector together, it's about 3 solid sectors. With how tight this grid is and how competitive it is now in Formula E, there's no margin for error.
James Barkley, the team principal of Jaguar, as Sam Bird comes up the hill, had a miserable weekend in Mexico City, but spoke to him after free practice. He said, "Yeah, we're there. We're there, thereabouts, in the mix," and was seeming pretty confident. No big laps coming in yet. He is backed off. Coming into the final corner. Some drivers doing a prep lap, some drivers doing a double prep lap.
Sam seemed very forgetful of Mexico after going P1 and free practice 1. Of course, the track has changed massively, and
well, one driver who isn't taking part in this session is the Abt Cupra man we saw earlier on, Nico Müller. Nicky's with him.
Nico Müller, we can see your team furiously working hard to get the car ready. What are the chances that it's going to be ready for the race?
For the race, I'm quite confident. I mean, we have the best guys out there, so I'm not in doubt that for the race we'll make it. It would have been great to get out for quali, just to also to check if everything's working all right. But I have full confidence that we will be okay for the race and can gather important data for tomorrow and the rest of the season.
Obviously, you don't want to miss out on track time, but ultimately being in the race today is going to help towards the race tomorrow.
Definitely, definitely. I think, you know, this place is very particular, and every lap around here helps, but also everything we can learn in these races for, you know, the upcoming rounds will also be helpful. So, yeah, fingers crossed we can make it.
Good luck to you and the team. Thanks, Nico.
So shame for Nico Müller after hitting the wall at turn 16. Some lap times coming in, a 10.6 for Sam Bird, 0.8 quicker than Sergio Sede Camera. Buemi now goes quicker. Evans is a 10th or 2 down. Vern's 400ths up in sector 1, so as ever, the lap times will drop as Evans comes out of the final corner and goes 3rd quickest. 2 more Germans to follow him across the line. Lotterer goes 5th fastest. Van der Linde's back in the pits. Rast goes 3rd fastest in the McLaren. So Buemi, Bird, Rast and Evans, the cars that would advance through at the moment. And Buemi's still pushing it. 7 thousandths up on his previous best time in sector 1. Vern is about to come across the line. He'll jump up maybe into the top 5. He does go 5th, but Buemi on a double push here.
Multiple cars on a double push so far here in the session. Still enough time to pit for another set. So let's see who decides to hit the road.
Buemi out across the line and does a 10.3. Finds 500ths on that time. So good news for the Envision team. They have Jaguar powertrains in the back, so it's 3 out of 4 positions are Jaguar at the moment. Evans improves to go ahead of Rast. This is Verline, 5th fastest, 2nd in the championship. And okay, it's very early in the season to talk about the championship, but Jake Dennis, the championship leader, will be on the 6th row of the grid. Verline 2nd in the standings at the moment, and he's 600ths up on Buemi. So nice lapping coming here from Pascal. The only driver on a push lap. Might have a bit of traffic ahead of him. That's Florian Modlinger, watching in the Porsche garage, the team principal.
No stranger to winning championships. Pascal, a former DTM champion, hasn't had as much speed here in Formula 1 or not Formula 1, Formula E, of course, over the years, but
here's a look at Van der Linde down at turn 11.
Wide.
Oh.
No contact.
But then you're wide for the next corner, aren't you?
Just a big moment.
Oh. There's Thomas Beermeyer. Van der Linde's been through the pits and back out, so maybe they just checked to see if there was a bit of damage. Here's Lotterer. Couple of tenths down after the first 2 sectors. Stoffel Van Dorn, meanwhile, is a 10th down after the first sector, so keep an eye on his clock in the bottom right. Lotterer, he's now 3 tenths down after the middle sector. Stoffel Van Dorn. DS felt they were in the mix, but maybe not super confident. Oh, that kick before 21 is big, yeah.
And you heard the bottom of the car bottom out just slightly,
Still
probably causing that snap of oversteer.
Still goes 3rd quickest, does Andre Lotterer. Here's Van Dorn through the final corner at 21. 7th quickest for Stoffel Van Dorn, 7th and 8th. The 2 DS Penske's at the moment. No, Vern makes it up into 3rd. So Jean-Eric Vern up into 3rd position. And that is a bit more like it for Jay Penske's squad. 4.5 minutes to go.
That's P7 for now, missing a tenth, bit more than a tenth. Use DAS if you need.
So missing a bit more than a tenth is the message to Van Dorn. Here's Kelvin van der Linde. First ever, whoa, fighting it into 16.
Big entry speed.
Woo. He was saying he completely underestimated how difficult this would be. He said on the sim he's up to speed, but you've got to be so online. You can't go in too deep at any point. Normally, in a GT car, which is used to racing, you're on a big open circuit, you can miss your braking point 3 or 4 times, go deep, and work backwards almost to find the limit. But he's just got to build up to it here, whilst at the same time definitely not crashing the car.
One of the most difficult racing series in the world.
He's in replacing Robin Freitz, who got injured in the last race. He's actually not watching qualifying live because he's having a checkup at the hospital today. So best of luck for that, Robin, even though you're not watching. Oh! Big moment for Verline as Sete Camera was dilly-dallying on the racing line on the way into the final corner. I thought he was going to go.
The stewards will have a look at that one, I believe.
So nearly a collision there. Verline still in second place. Evans is in the pits. Bird has just left the pits, so both Jaguars back out on circuit, but have a look at this one again. I thought Sete was going to get on it, but he even got slower, and then...
Oh, he had no idea he was there.
Oh.
You could see him try and turn in to start the lap. But the approach speed of the Porsche here is just massive.
This is what sketchy looks like. Whoa! That was such a close one. So, Buemi, Verline, Vernon, Lotterer, the top 4 as it stands, but we've got 2.5 minutes to go. Business time incoming. Sete Camera's done a fast first sector, fast middle sector into 18 and 19. There will be an investigation into that Sete Camera incident. 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go. What can he do? He goes third quickest in the Neo. And then next across the line comes Van Dorn. It's only 7th still. Not much pace for Van Dorn and the DS Penske team. He was quick in free practice too. He was 4th quickest. But hasn't got it yet. He's just got one more shot. As you can see, Sete Camera under investigation for impeding another driver. Here's Buemi. Quickest right now. He is on a cool-down lap currently.
These mirrors don't work. The mirrors don't work. Cannot see anything, man. Keep that in mind.
Here's Buemi on his build lap. So this will be his final push lap. He's about to start, Sebastian Buemi. Now, he's about to start his big lap, Sebastian Buemi, but the man who already has is Pascal Verline, so's René Rast, and Sam Bird's done a huge Sector 1. Here's Pascal Verline coming up towards the chicane, but a massive first sector for Sam Bird, 2/10 quicker than Sebastian Buemi. Rast is looking quick as well. Verline towards the final corner, he's got a car up ahead of him. Keeps out of the way this time, Andre Lotterer. Verline across the line, improves but remains second. Buemi's done a good first sector, but Bird is 3/10 up after sector 2. There's traffic around. Sete Camera trying to keep out of the way this time, and he manages to pull it off. René Rast through the final turn, bit of a slide, fastest, a 1 minute 10.2. That pushes Vern out, but here comes Bird, quicker still by 3/10 of a second. Sam Bird 3/10 clear of René Rast. Buemi and Verline in 3rd and 4th. Andre Lotterer has done a reasonable first sector. Mitch Evans has as well. Here is Lotterer in the Andretti. Whoa! Really pushing as he comes into turn 16. His teammate Jake Dennis hasn't made it through. Into the chicane now for Lotterer. All looks clean. Buemi takes the checker flag, improves but remains in second. Rast is still there in 3rd spot. Lotterer through the final corner, remains 7th. Doesn't manage to make it through. There's no pace for either DS. Verline crosses the line in 4th. Evans wrestling the car through the final corner, gets into 3rd place. Both Jaguars in the Duels as it stands, and I don't think anyone can stop them. Stoffel Van Dorn across the line, it's only 9th, and Vern is 7th. Another shocker for DS Penske. Sete Camera in 6th, and Mitch Evans comes through to remain in 3rd position. Bird, Buemi, Evans and Rast, all possible Jaguar-powered cars in this group are through.
Yes mate, P1, P1, P1.
That was on a double push there as well for Bird, so that worked well for him as long as he was able to keep the rear tires under him for the second.
We both got 2. I had Rast and Bird. You had Bird and Buemi.
Well, we need a tiebreaker here, don't we?
Yeah, yeah. So Sam Bird, after a torrid last season, after a torrid Mexico City, quickest by almost 3/10. That's a big advantage. So 2 Jaguars, 2 McLarens and 2 Mahindras all through to the Duels. Bird keen to keep the pace up on the in-lap, isn't he? Is that going to be tyres?
Yes, possibly trying to keep tires up to temperature. Mainly worried about the fronts. So with how much torque this car has, the rear tires don't have a problem getting up to temperature on the outlap. But remember, now that we go to the duels, it's just 1 lap, out, push, that's all you get. And temperature starting to fall here as well in Riyadh.
So, Bird and Roland, the 2 drivers who were on the last row of the grid in Mexico City, are both through to the duels here. It's only the second time that Jaguar have had 2 cars through to the duels. The last time was Rome last season. Stoffel van Dorn, the reigning champion, will be on the 9th row of the grid. Jean-Eric Verne will be on the 7th row of the grid. Oh, this is horrible for DS Penske, and I'm baffled by it.
Me as well. You can
they
see,
probably are too.
Yeah, you can see the character of some of these teams, like Jaguar, being able to pull themselves out of a rut.
Van Dorn off to get away. Evans returning to the garage. After he made it through as well. 3/10 adrift of Sam Bird. Bird was the quickest driver in the first and the third sectors. So qualifying Group B done. Bird fastest, Buemi second, Evans third, Rast fourth. Pascal Wehrlein will be on the 5th row of the grid, the second place man in the championship. Sete Camera 6th. The Abt Cooper's at the back.
Huge margin.
So we will be moving on to the duels fairly shortly, and that was Bird crossing the line. Let's head down to Karun Chandok.
Thanks, Jack. I've got the fastest laps from both of those group sessions. So let's get into it here. We've got Sam Bird on the left and Jake Hughes on the right in the McLaren. So heading down towards turn 1, both drivers really neat and tidy. That's the first thing I picked up here, is Jake is really focusing on making sure that he doesn't use too much width. He's using less of the road all the way through this first sector of the lap. If I draw, Sam is probably there. So there's a slight difference between their trajectory in this this whole first sector, really. Jake, really a very minimalist style of driving, I would say, in terms of picking his line and picking his moments of where to use the track. He's definitely using a bit more steering lock at certain places, but Sam, I think, has got the car really well dialed in. The rear of the Jaguar seems very stable. What is impressive, I think, in coming into turn 14, you can see here, Jake has got very good confidence on the brakes. And as we come towards 16, I'll just slow it down. You see both drivers here. This is a really interesting part of the track for me. Sam using a tighter line than Jake. You can see he's much closer to that inside wall than Jake is. And that's something we've seen all day long. That's just a line that Sam prefers. But I think this is where the McLaren is particularly strong. Under braking, Jake really has a lot of confidence to attack the brake pedal and get the nose into the apex. And for me, when they get to the dual stages, that's going to be fascinating because the track would develop a bit more. He's going to have more grip underneath him as the track's cleaned up as well. And then we get to the final corner. So I think both of these drivers have delivered really clean laps. that is the most important part here, is you got to make sure you don't overdrive it. If the drivers go just a meter too wide, they get offline and they will end up losing, first of all, the racing line, and therefore losing lap time. So great driving from both drivers. Let's see what they can do in the duels.
Thank you, Karun. Really interesting stuff.
It's not just the balance thing. Okay,
less interesting stuff.
There's understeering in the car.
Well, very interesting stuff for DS Penske.
Let's see if we can listen.
It's a bit, but
frustrating stuff for Stoffel van Dorn there. You can still get involved with the predictor, of course, as Jake Hughes gets ready to head back out onto the circuit in a couple of moments' time. Just about ready for the duels then. Here in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, it is the second round of the season here in Diriyah. And after a very difficult session so far for some teams, both Maseratis crashing out, neither DS Penske making it through. It's been a very good session for some others, with both McLarens through, both Mahindras through, both Jaguars through to the duels, as we get ready to go head-to-head in the quarterfinals. It's perfectly simple. The two cars start about 10 or 15 seconds apart from one another. The quickest lap time goes through to the semi-finals. And quarterfinal number one is Dan Ticktum versus Oliver Rowland. They've never faced each other before.
Two qualifying specialists, I would say.
Yeah.
Very quick on one lap pace. This will be an interesting matchup.
Just focus on the tire prep. 350 in the last sector. Let's just make sure we nail that brake and retain on 350.
So Ticktum with Mike Henderson there on the radio.
Let's just focus on the tire prep. 350 in the last.
And tyre prep, all important for this one lap. Both of these were in Group A, so they will have, you know, similar tyres. There won't be a sort of discrepancy between, you know, someone's being a bit warmer or a bit cooler.
Right away, you can see both drivers putting loads of steering angle in the front tires. We call that step steer, overloading the front tires, trying to get some heat into that surface. Hard on the brakes as well, in order to get some internal temperature into the carcass of the tire.
So Rowland is following Ticktum. Ticktum will be across the line first. Across the line now. Down in towards turn one for Ticktum. Hasn't won a quarter-final. Fifth on the grid last time out in Mexico City was his best ever qualifying result in Formula E. Starts the run down the bobsleigh. Here comes Rowland into the first corner. Whoever's higher on the left-hand side is ahead. And Ticktum slightly quicker through the first corner. I would expect Ticktum to win here, because the Neos looked quick all weekend and maybe the Mahindra hasn't, but there's only 6 thousandths between them at the moment. That's a bit more of a gap for Ticktum.
We've seen how difficult these cars have been to drive around this circuit, so I think it's all about getting the tires in the right window and putting the lap together, not making any small mistake. As you see Rowland there, struggling with power down oversteer. 3/10 down now.
Ticktum with the advantage coming into the final corner. This for a place in the semi-finals. The gap grows a little more. Ticktum does a 1:09, 9.593. Rowland through the chicane.
Oh, he's all out of shape. Does not look happy with the car at the moment.
Across the line. Half a second in the end. Ticktum goes through. Rowland's lap time is a 10.114, but it is Ticktum who advances through to the semi-final. The winner of the first quarter-final in Mexico City was, that McLaren has picked up a bit of damage already.
It's just a bit of debris. I don't know if it's
Jake Hughes
touched the wall, but that car's about to start a lap.
Yeah, and it's coming off now. I think it might have just been a bit of advertising, but
he could have made contact as well.
So that's an interesting one. We'll keep an eye on that because he is up against Lucas Di Grassi. So Lucas Di Grassi versus Jake Hughes. Here he comes across the line now, Di Grassi. Through turn one. Here comes Hughes. Has he got any? Might have just brushed the wall somewhere, but it looks as though the advertising has gone away. So should be a clean lap here for Hughes. And Hughes is quick through the first corner. Di Grassi's at the bottom of the bobsleigh run. Oh, so quick through there. Fantastic. The car's now running with 350 kilowatts of power, so 50 kilowatts more than they had before. Hughes has got the gap up to 3/10, although Di Grassi is catching him a little. Di Grassi is unbeaten in the duels so far this season. And he's got a quarter of a second now to Hughes ahead of him. Gap grows a little to 3/10. Di Grassi about to come to the final corner. Gap comes down again a little bit. Di Grassi across the line. A 1:10.0. What can Hughes do? He's still got that 2/10 in the pocket. And he's quicker. A 9.7 for Jake Hughes. And he goes through to the semi-finals to face Dan Ticktum. But Di Grassi's lap time was quicker than his teammates Oliver Rowland's. Quarterfinal 3, Mitch Evans versus Sebastian Buemi. Jaguar versus Envision for a place in the semi-finals. Evans first on track, coming up into the chicane, turns it up to full power.
Well, the tires come up to temperature differently depending on how stiff these cars are being run with spring rate and suspension settings, which could make a difference with this out push procedure in the duels.
So on board with Evans here as he gets his lap started. Coming down the hill. Buemi starts his lap now. And Evans is quick through the first corner. Buemi's lost a couple of tenths there already. Grows a little bit more as he starts the bobsleigh run. This is a quick lapping coming here from Mitch Evans. Buemi's closed in a big chunk though there. Evans has never won a duel before. Buemi has never won a duel before, but he's closing that gap and chipping away at Evans. Evans is up into the chicane in the black and white Jaguar. And Buemi's got ahead. It's a remarkable return and recovery and comeback from Sebastian Buemi. Evans through the final corner. Sets his time of a 10.0, but Buemi has the advantage into the chicane.
He's keeping it tidy here so far.
And he's growing the gap still. Almost 2/10 of a second here. Buemi has never won a duel before. He has now by a quarter of a second. Wow. Big lap from the Swiss Season 2 champion.
Returning to the front of the grid with a change in team.
So Evans doesn't make it through. Did a 1:10.039, just quicker than Di Grassi.
Good job. So we are through. 2.5 quicker than.
Happy Buemi, who will be joining him in the semi-finals. Will it be René Rast for Neon McLaren or Sam Bird for Jaguar TCS Racing? Bird quickest in the group stages. Rast in the McLaren has his teammate through to the semi-final already. example at Neon McLaren. And here is Sam Bird now. Quicker than René Rast at the moment. Bird has also never won a duel before. He's only been in 3 times, but he's got the advantage at the moment over René Rast, although Rast chips away a little. Gap now grows up to 700ths. This is going to be tight. I can feel it in my bones. Oh, it's down to 200ths. Rast up the hill towards the chicane. Onto the brakes. Bird's coming into turn 16 now. It's down to 100th of a second. This is fantastic stuff. Rast down to the final corner. Oh, it's almost a 10th now. Huge advantage for Sam Bird. Rast does a 9.7. That's up there. That is a good lap time. Bird's going to need to do something to beat this, but he is ahead at the moment. Final corner. Across the line. Bird is through by over a 10th of a second. Bird into the semi-finals.
Good job, but there's still work to do. Continuing in the duels for Sam Bird, both drivers having horrible weekends in Mexico, so good to see them rebound.
So 5th on the grid will be René Rast, 6th will be Mitch Evans, 7th will be Lucas de Grassi, 8th will be Oliver Rowland, and it'll be Bird versus Buemi in the other semi-final. So this is where we're at then, after we've made it through the quarter-final stages. Ticktum beat Rowland, Hughes beat de Grassi, Buemi beat Evans, and Bird beat Rast. Ticktum's lap was good.
Very good.
First on track, and the second quickest of all the duels. Only Sam Bird went quicker right at the end with the best track evolution. So Hughes will face off against Ticktum, Buemi will face off against Bird in the semi-finals in a few moments' time. Right, as I say, semi-finals getting underway very, very shortly indeed. But from the back row of the grid and the front of the grid, it's a bit more of a balanced day for Mahindra today, Nikki.
Yeah, good to see both Mahindras making it through to the duels, but just missing out to Dan Ticktum, who seems to be on fire today.
Yeah, no, I think first of all, pretty happy to be in the duels. It's been Mexico was tough on my side, great for Lucas, but even yesterday was difficult, but we slowly improved over the couple of days. So I was happy to be in the duels. Dan did a great lap. I don't really know where the lap time is because mine wasn't too bad, but congrats to him. But overall, just happy to have made a good step.
I mean, it's great progress from where you've come from in Mexico City. Has anything particular changed, or is it you just getting to grips with the new Gen 3 car?
No, a lot's changed. They're quite complicated cars with all the systems, software, and all that sort of stuff. So we were going in completely different directions. I think we understood some good stuff from Lucas. And then also last night, we understood some more good stuff. And then it seems to be getting better and better all the time. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy on that side. And for sure, there's more to improve as well.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thanks very much. We'll see if we can grab a quick word with your teammate, Lucas de Grassi. Lucas also making it through to the duels. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was not ideal quali, but P7, I think I take it after this morning.
Okay. Excellent. So what is the strategic plan now going into the race? Because it seems rather unpredictable which cars are going to be on top at the moment. You know, some of the, great to see the Jaguar TCS guys doing well. Yeah, what are your predictions?
To be honest, I don't really care about the others. I need to improve my car. That's my focus, to try to make the car slightly better every session, every time, every corner, every little detail, and then see where we end up. In Mexico, we were ahead. Here we are P7, which we still can score good points from there. We're going to try our maximum.
Oliver was just saying that they've really relied on the data that you got from your car in Mexico City.
Yeah, everybody's understanding the car. It's a new car, new tires, new conditions. This track is very, very different from Mexico in terms of tire energy, in terms of time of the day, track temperature, air temperature, everything. So it's a bit of a guess of what you need to do. You can simulate, you can learn, but the most important is to improve every time. Is that, for us in Mahindra, the most important, like consistently get better race by race. And be one of the contenders in every single race.
Excellent. Thanks, Lucas. Well, hopefully you can keep up that pace, as obviously, as Lucas was saying, temperatures will be getting cooler as we head into the race later this evening. Thanks.
Yeah, certainly will, and that's something that's really interesting about how they're trying to sort of not exactly guess their way through the session, but something like that. Anyway, as we get ready for the first semi-final. So, we are about to get going with the semi-finals. Jake Hughes versus Dan Ticktum, Sebastian Buemi versus Sam Bird in the second round of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship.
We were watching an onboard of Ticktum's lap there during the interviews with the Mahindra boys, and he just looks so confident in the car. Like
really?
It was almost a perfect lap. I mean, it's never perfect, but there's always room to improve, but it looked so smooth. And he's very patient to attack the throttle. He's waiting for the car to rotate.
Bird in the car. He's in the second semi-final. Well, I guess you don't really have time to get out between the quarterfinals and the semi. Well, maybe you do, but maybe you just don't want to, I suppose. How were you getting in a car and stuff? Do you have a lot of rigmaroles? Do you want to be in there a long time beforehand? Can you just hop in and go? What was your vibe?
I tend to think too much, so I found it better to jump in at the last minute.
I've seen no evidence of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I never liked sitting in the car by myself.
Yeah.
If I had something to look at, some data to look at, some notes, or you know, a conversation with my engineer to keep myself focused,
Yeah.
that was always preferred
So
for myself.
You're like a last minute jump in the car,
Yeah.
let's go kind of guy. So semi-finals happening shortly here. Sebastian Buemi getting ready to go. Has the most, well, used to have the most pole positions in Formula E history, did Sebastian Buemi, but he's still on 14 career poles, and actually, to be fair, Verne's got 15, so if he got a pole today, Buemi, he would be back to tying with Jean-Eric Verne for the most, and he's actually tied on front row starts with Jean-Eric Verne. They've both got 21.
It's probably not something that he's thinking about right now.
No, true. Fourth time in the quarterfinal for Sam Bird. And that was the first time that he's won the duel and got through into the semis. 7 fastest laps in his Formula E career. Now here's a look of Bird's whole qualifying lap. This is the quickest lap in the quarterfinals.
One of the heaviest braking zones on the track there, turn 1. And this is when it gets very technical. Each corner connected to the other. If you mess up here, the whole complex is compromised.
Oh.
Taking a lot of curb there. And these cars, the suspension is so soft that you can take that much curb. Here, turn 11, where we saw Gunther lose the car on the barriers, and then another quick chicane. No time to rest. One of the most physical tracks on the calendar.
See Bird turning to the left to watch it on the screens.
Just hugging the wall, trying to keep tight out of the dust on the outside of the track. And then here, another heavy braking zone, one of the best passing opportunities on the circuit as well. I'm sure we'll see a lot of action here tonight.
Through the final corner, and that was the quickest time in the duels and put him through to the semi-finals. And a lot of relief, I'd imagine, for the yeah, exactly, a lot of relief for the Jaguar team after that one. As the teams get ready to head out. The sun's starting to set, so I think they're just holding that umbrella so Sam's not looking straight into the sun, because it does set basically directly opposite the pit garage to the left as we look at it. So this is where we're at on the ladder. Hughes versus Ticktum and Buemi versus Bird. The winners will be on the front row of the grid, and then we will go through to the final in a few moments' time. Difficult one to call, this one, I think, with all of the duels. But first up, it's semi-final number 1, Jake Hughes versus Dan Ticktum. Hughes beat Ticktum in the quarterfinals in Mexico City, but they're both looking for their first front row start here, and whoever wins will get their first front row start.
Is this our tiebreaker?
Yeah, okay, yeah, great.
They're both British, so...
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going... Look.
I want Dan.
Okay,
well, I'll make it easy on you.
Well, no, I knew you would want Dan. I would back Dan, so I'm going to back Jake Hughes. So I'm going Hughes, you're going Ticktum, and this means we're the winner or something. One of us will be the winner. So, out onto the circuit goes Dan Ticktum. Hughes did a 9.7 in the quarterfinal. Ticktum did a 9.59, so just over a 10th. Ticktum was quicker in the quarters.
Yeah, so pretty evenly matched.
Yeah. It's going to be tight. Down the bottom of the hill for Ticktum.
Important to note, this is Jake's first time at this circuit. Of course, he has
true.
Hours upon hours, probably days on the simulator at this track, but it's a bit different in real life.
So here is Hughes, and there is Ticktum. Quite close together on the circuit, aren't they? Maybe Ticktum wants a little bit of rabbit vibes.
Yeah, or maybe prefers a quicker outlap in order to get those tires in a preferred window.
A spot on the front row for the Diriyah E-Prix up for grabs. Jake Hughes in the McLaren versus this man, Dan Ticktum, in the Neo 333. Through turn 1. Who gets the early advantage? Oh, it's Hughes by 200s. Oh, Hughes hits the wall on the inside, manages to keep it going, but we always say there's a paper's width between them and the wall. There was the advertising paper's width there, and that was it. And that might have cost him a bit of time. Ticktum's 2/10 ahead now. Ticktum leaning on the car as he swings through, and Hughes closes the gap again. 300s between them. Hughes now on the long drive up the hill, and Ticktum's got more of an advantage. Fighting the car on the exit of 16. The gap comes down again. So that little fight cost him all the way up the hill, Dan Ticktum. Hughes into the final corner. Cuts the timing beam. It's a 9.779. Ticktum still ahead as it stands. Oh, it's a big slide! Hughes wins! Done it. Hughes wins!
He lost it all in the final corner.
Ticktum slides it away at the final turn. And Hughes is into the final.
Oh, he just had to be clean through there. He had the advantage.
Look at this.
Oh, man, he was lucky.
Oh, how did he keep it out the wall?
That was some Tokyo drift there.
Yes.
That was unbelievable.
I love it. He won't. Right, semi-final number 2. Who will be joining Jake Hughes in the final? It's the Battle of the Centurions. Sebastian Buemi and Sam Bird celebrating their 100th race today. One of them will be on the front row of the grid. James Barkley ready to go. Sylvain Filippi ready to go. Both of these cars with Jaguar powertrains. And here we go, we're doing split on board into the first corner.
This is where Hughes just clipped the wall there on the apex.
Bird is ahead by just over a 10th of a second as they start the run down the hill. Buemi closing the gap a little. And closing the gap a little more. We saw how strong Buemi was in the second half of the lap here in the quarterfinal to come through and get into the semis. Into turn 16. 300ths between them on the power now up the hill. What's the gap like at the chicane? Buemi's got ahead by almost 1/10 of a second. Both team principals remaining absolutely poker-faced. Buemi grows the gap a little more. Final corner, across the line, and it's Buemi who's through to the final.
So, almost 1/10 of a second.
So close between them, but Sebastian Buemi gets his first front row start since Berlin in 2020, 33 races ago. Bird will be third on the grid. Core, those laps were quick.
Yeah, both really well driven there, as we saw from the split onboard.
Both were 3 or 4 tenths quicker than Jake Hughes' lap.
Come on, we're through. That's the final. Yes! Yes! Come on, guys!
Ah, lovely to hear Buemi happy.
So that lap time will be relayed to Jake Hughes.
Yeah.
Now he knows what he's up against.
Why, oh, because it's a customer, yeah. Well, the Jaguars, like, come on, Seb. And I was like, why, what? But then obviously it's a Jaguar powertrain underneath the rear of that Envision. So third on the grid will be Sam Bird. Fourth on the grid will be Dan Ticktum. Is Buemi keeping his tyres alive by being a bit slower in Sector 1 potentially? Because both duels he's been behind and then brought it back. Is it that, or is he just stronger in the second half of the session? I don't know.
Yeah, there could be something to it. I know that the rear tires fall off quicker than the fronts on one lap.
Right, the final will be Jake Hughes in the Neon McLaren versus Sebastian Buemi in the Envision for pole position in Diriyah. Right. There is Ticktum, and oh.
Yeah, he's in disbelief.
He's going to be kicking himself, isn't
Well, he did so well throughout the entire lap and just had one corner where he had to keep it clean.
And the last one as well.
Yeah.
Let's go down to Nicky Shields.
Well, Mitch Evans getting through to the duels, missing out, though, on getting through to the next stage. Unfortunately, Sebastian Buemi managed to make up the pace in the second and third sector.
Yeah, no, full credit to Seb. Yeah, the first half of the lap was okay. I made a couple of mistakes towards the end, which I'm kicking myself for, but you got to put the lap together. So yeah, I'm obviously a little bit disappointed because I've been sort of top 3 throughout both practice sessions, and to be honest, all the Jaguars are working well. So to be knocked out this early is frustrating. But I have another go tomorrow. We've got the race obviously later this afternoon, or tonight. So yeah, it's definitely better than where we were in Mexico, which is obviously a positive.
You seem a little bit deflated. Is there a reason for that?
No, I just want more, right? Yeah. I'm a normal. I think racing drivers, you always want to be at the front. If you're not satisfied. So and I just think there's more potential than starting 8th or 9th or wherever I'll start. So is what it is.
And given the nature of the track, do you think we're going to see more mistakes being made in the course of the race from all the drivers?
Yeah, I mean, this car is definitely challenging us a lot, so you'll probably see a few more mistakes. Hopefully not from me, but yeah, it is tricky to put a whole race together, a whole lap together. So yeah, hopefully we have a clean race. But yeah, I think you'll start to see yeah, maybe a few mistakes from guys, and obviously this track is as unforgiving as it is. Even with Gen 2, it's like a one racing line. It's challenging to get it right. So. Yeah, let's see what we got.
What position are you going to be happy with at the end of this race?
You know the answer to that.
The win, of course. Yeah, all right. Shouldn't have asked that. Well, always good to see both the Jaguars making it through to the duel. Hopefully things are starting to turn to their advantage now.
Yep, good stuff for Mitch Evans. He will be starting in 6th on the grid, so not quite as bad as I think he thinks that it is. But we will be getting underway with the final in a few moments time, which will be Jake Hughes versus Sebastian Buemi, as the sun has now disappeared behind the old Diriyah.
Just in time.
Yeah.
Showtime, baby. Fight for pole between a rookie and a veteran.
Yeah, absolutely. A man with 0 pole positions and a man who, if he takes pole today, will equal the pole position record that he used to have. 4.5 minutes till the final begins. Have your say on Formula E predictor. I won the tie break in that semi-final thanks to Tictum's Larry moment, so I appreciate that. So we're about to get going with the final, the battle for pole position. Jake Hughes against Sebastian Buemi. Buemi has retaken the record for most Formula E front row starts. He's up to 22 now. If he gets a pole position, he will be up to 15, which will draw him back level with Jean-Eric Vergne in the most pole positions in Formula E. His last pole was back in 2019. At the end of season 5 in New York, won the race, led from start to finish, the season 2 champion.
And Seb, the tyres are again in a very similar condition to the previous lap.
You can see these teams now have tire heating blankets or containers. So they're not allowed to leave the pit lane with a hotter tire than what they came in with.
Right.
So what they're doing is just keeping the tire up to temperature. As you see, there's like a little scuff on that right front of Jake Hughes' car.
Yeah.
From clipping. He's lucky there. Not. We saw Gunther, I think, a couple of years ago clip that inside wall, which sent him then straight into the outside by knocking that steering arm out of place.
Yeah. Clipped the inside, then went straight to the outside, didn't he? Hughes getting ready to go. The 28-year-old from Birmingham on the left-hand side.
Put your visor down, Seb. It's bright out.
He's all right. He seems all right.
Looking calm and cool.
Sun's gone down now behind the... He'll stare directly at the sun. Sebastian Buemi, never in the mirror, but he gets ready to head out on circuit. There's Mike Glugg on the right-hand side, Sylvain Philippi on the left, and I always find the sort of psychology of the final interesting, because you've had a great quali. You know what I mean? You've had a great qualifying. You're on the front row of the grid, so it's chilled now. Doesn't matter. Even if you mess it up, you're second on the grid. You'd have taken that at the start of the session, but it's not how teams and drivers operate, is it?
No, as a competitor, you always want to outdo the rest of the field, and of course, a pole position and that trophy at the end of it is very sweet.
So 90 seconds till the final gets underway here in Diriyah. You can see the huge stage in the background where we've got some concerts going on tonight, and John Legend tomorrow night, which would be quite cool. And there you can see the why you need a bit of a visor. Dark visor for Jake Hughes as he pulls out of the pit lane. Buemi's visor down as he leaves the garage too. The man with 0 poles versus the man who, if he takes pole, will have the joint most poles in the history of Formula E. Wonderful to see Buemi back at the front. Great to see Jake Hughes, the rookie, at his first time here, through to the final. After dispensing of Lucas Di Grassi as well. He's dispensed of Di Grassi. Can he dispense of Buemi? The two OG big hitters in Formula E. The only new pole sitter last season was Eduardo Mortara when he took pole in Berlin. Jake Hughes looking for a first-time pole in only his second Formula E race. And it's going to be third. He'll have started no lower than third in his Formula E career. Jake Hughes in the neon McLaren against Sebastian Buemi for Envision Racing.
Remember, Nick De Vries was on pole here last year with at least the same personnel, a different brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Behind it. But definitely some good data to go off of.
The light goes green at the end of the pit lane now, and out goes Hughes. It's going to be a tight one. In terms of the semi-finals, Buemi was 4/10 quicker than Hughes. I think you'd have to say Buemi is favourite, considering the pace he's had, considering Hughes and McLaren haven't actually been that quick all weekend in terms of, you know, real front-running speed. And Buemi and Jaguar have. Buemi topped the shakedown session, I think, which was technically untimed.
How do you know that?
Sector 1 and 2, then the semi-final.
So, being told Jake Hughes to push a little more in sector 1 and 2 than his previous attempt.
And is that's on his hot lap, not his out lap?
No, on his out lap.
On his out lap.
Yeah. So the team not happy with the temperature of the tires on his previous attempt.
Here we go then. Sylvain Filippi, managing director at Envision, watching his new driver for this season, Sebastian Buemi, come across the line. Buemi also looking for his first pole, not with Edams. But it's Jake Hughes, first of all, in the McLaren, trying to find any grip at all. Coming out of turn 21. Into the first corner. Around the flagpole square. This is where he clipped the wall last time around, and he's wrestling this. Right on the limit of grip. Buemi across the line now and down into turn 1. Who's quicker through the first corner? It's Hughes by 500s. Back ends all over the shop as he comes down into 14. Buemi closes the gap a tiny smidge. Into 16.
Oh, he's a little wide.
Oh,
well, still kept it together there on the exit.
3 thousandths between them. Hughes actually has now gained a 10th or so. Buemi's down at turn 14. It's the neon McLaren of Jake Hughes that is ahead at the moment, but again Buemi closes the gap a little more. One more corner to go here for Jake Hughes. Incredibly tight final here in Diriyah. Who's going to be on pole position for round 2 of the season? Hughes has done a 9.495. Buemi's a bit back right now. He's into the chicane. He's ahead by 400ths. Buemi looking to equal the most poles in Formula E, and he does! 15th career pole for Sebastian Buemi. He gets it by 600ths of a second. Buemi and Envision start on pole position.
Well done.
2 fantastically driven laps. Buemi radio.
P1, come on. Yes.
He's going to be happy here.
Yes.
Happy Buemi. Pole position for the Diriyah E-Prix. 600ths ahead of Jake Hughes. In that final sector as well, Hughes was quicker in sectors 1 and 2, but Buemi's been a monster in that final sector all day.
Yeah, just maybe leaving a bit of life in the rear tires and getting that drive out of turn 19. And here's Buemi's radio again.
Still got it, guys.
Still do it. Got it. Still got it.
Hasn't lost it.
To be fair, he's only 34. He's not that old, but he's just had such a miserable few years and got sort of a bit obliterated by Oliver Rowland. So there were sort of question marks, really. But he was still doing it in the World Endurance Championship, still doing it at Le Mans. It was all of a bit of a mystery where his pace had gone in Formula E, but he's still got it. He's still got it. And he takes pole position for the Diriyah E-Prix. We'll hear from him in a few moments' time. Again, his last pole position at the end of season 5 in New York. Led from lights to flag as well. Did Buemi. And there are the manufacturers coming to congratulate the customers. James Barkley with the Jaguar powertrains. They're next door to each other in the garage, so it's not exactly a long schlep for them to come and say well done. But Envision at the front. Nice, seems like a nice relationship they've got going on here, as, you know, customer, manufacturer.
It's all smiles when things are going well.
Yeah.
You can just see from those pictures just how many people are working behind the scenes tirelessly, I'm sure, just to figure out this machine. This new Gen 3 car, a completely different beast from last year's Gen 2. More power, less grip, more technologically advanced, harder to drive, better for the viewers.
It's a fun session. Very, very close final as well. The race gets underway in just under 3 hours' time, 8 p.m. here in Diriyah. And it's 5:10 now, so not got long to get sorted. We can hear from the driver who will be starting third on the grid. That man, Sam Bird. Oh no, we're going to, hopefully we'll hear from Sam a little bit later. He's back at the garage now. And he's gone down to Envision as well to congratulate his old team. Raced for 5 seasons with the Envision squad. 6 seasons maybe. Yeah, 6 seasons with Envision.
I'm sure there'll be some inter-team communication tonight.
Yeah.
About what their particular strategies are.
Well, let's hear from the man who will be 4th on the grid for this one, as Sebastian Buemi high-fives his mechanic Tower and John as he gets back. Let's go down to Nikki.
Thank you. Well, I'm here with the Neo driver, Dan Ticktum, who has just been on flying form all day, making it through to the semi-finals. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, 1 lap pace, good in Mexico, even better here, to be honest. A little bit shame in the final duel there. I just slightly overcooked the braking on entry, and then I was slightly offline for the exit. I couldn't get the power down. Looked quite good on TV though. So
you managed to save it.
Yeah, just kept it out the wall. So yeah, pretty happy overall.
I mean, overall, yeah, looking now into the performance of the car going into the race, what's the plan? What's the strategy? What position are you going to be happy with?
I think starts have been pretty strong, so I think I'd like to try and hold position, maybe get 1 at the start. I think our race pace is still slightly unknown. Looking at stuff back from Mexico, I think it might be a little bit more of a struggle than our 1 lap pace, but hard to really say. But yeah, I mean, if I can get some good points, you know, top 5 tomorrow would be, tonight, sorry, would be great. Yeah.
There's less energy available for this race. We've reduced it from 41 kilowatts to 40 kilowatts. How's that going to affect racing?
I think a lot of people will be biasing energy to the straight because that's the main overtaking place. So I think there might be some awkward / aggressive moves in like the first sector between sort of 2 all the way down to 14. I think we'll see some lunges maybe because people will be saving a lot there. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, good luck for the race. Thanks very much, Dan Ticktum.
So very entertaining stuff from Dan Ticktum, as you would expect, as he slid his way through the final corner. But now let's hear from our pole sitter, number 15 for Sebastian Buemi.
Sebastian Buemi, that was pure perfection. The performance of a previous champion, of course. How does that feel? 15th pole position.
Yeah, it feels great. I'm kind of emotional, even so it's just qualifying. Just because of the last 2 seasons, they've been so hard, you know, so it's difficult to not start to doubt, you know. Even so, it's just qualifying. I'm really happy because, you know, I still got it somehow. So we'll see what happens in the race. But I think we've been there, you know, the whole weekend so far. So it feels just good that I've been able to go through all those laps, you know, without making mistakes.
Would you say this is one of your most emotional pole positions? Because it really felt like it meant so much to you and the team.
Yeah, no, definitely. Maybe season 5 was my last one. So, of course, it's a big one, you know, in a new team. It's just my 2nd race with them. And, yeah, I think I would say it's the most emotional one.
Brilliant. Well, I'd now like to introduce Yves-Robert Charroux, the member of the executive board at Julius Baer, to present you with the pole position trophy.
Pole position for Sebastian Buemi. Were we even doing trophies last time he got pole position? Season 5, I think we were doing Julius Baer trophies then, weren't we? But, yeah. First silverware in a while for Sebastian Buemi. He'll be hoping to finish that up next time when the race gets underway in just under 3 hours. Sebastian Buemi will be the man starting on pole position for the Diriyah E-Prix. So, a good day for Buemi and Envision. Really tough day for this team. Razzi's got the unenviable task of being down there.
And who would have called seeing that image for the second time in as many races? We're seeing both DS cars failing to make the duels. Now, in terms of an energy, when you're stood here, the energy you hear as cars progress through to the duels, the quarterfinals, the semis, and eventually the final, it's palpable, it's tangible. Not the case with DS Penske here. You can see this car's in park Fermi. That's the car of the 2 times world champion, John-Eric Verne. And over here, an awful lot of work's being done for Stoffel Vandoorne, the reigning world champion. I have to say, through those doors there at the very back there, that's where the drivers are walking through. And as soon as the results became clear, both men were straight out the doors to speak and make the preparations for the race. It really is all for both men to do. And as for these guys here, they're working tirelessly, because when the race gets started, John-Eric Verne and Stoffel Vandoorne will be doing nothing other than chasing for their racing lives.
Yeah, absolutely correct. It's remarkable down there at DS Penske. Right, second on the grid, Jake Hughes, still his best ever qualifying result. He was so close. He's now with Nicky.
Jake Hughes, another phenomenal performance, stepping up from P3 into P2 this time round. Losing out, though, to Season 2 champion Sebastian Buemi, not bad.
Yeah, I've never disliked Seb more than I do right now. No, I mean, top job from him. He was quick all day, I think. I mean, for us, to be honest, FP2 was a bit of a struggle compared to FP1, so turn it around to get into the groups already, I was pretty happy. And then we just got quicker in each, well, not in lap time, but it felt better and better each time. And at the end, I did my fastest lap time of the day, but just not quite enough this time.
What does it mean to you to be starting on front row of the grid in your second race?
Yeah, happy. I think in 10 minutes I'll be happier. Right now I'm just a bit disappointed to be half a tenth behind. But no, it's good, right? I have to stop being so selfish and be quite happy with this. Yeah, front row of the grid, first time Formula E, potential for a really good race, so we'll focus on that now.
What's going to happen in the first corner?
I'll try and get off the line on the dirty side of the grid first, and then see where we are. But yeah, try and not play it safe, but try and stay out of trouble.
Best of luck for the race. Thanks very much, Jake Hughes.
Yeah, we'll be on the dirty side of the grid, Jake Hughes, but it's only a short run and he'll be on the inside into the first corner, so might not be a disaster for him. And he's actually lost out to Sebastian Buemi in the Drivers' Championship now, because Buemi's scored 3 points, which takes him ahead of Hughes. Those two were teammates at Nissan, got along very well when they were at Nissan, Roland and Buemi. Roland just giving him a little congratulations. Sebastian Buemi, the pole sitter for round 2 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship later on today. Congratulations from Dan Ticktum coming in. Now he's got to do a bit of a Formula E social media post, which I think he's more than happy to do. And he will be starting at the front of the grid after a very, very entertaining session that. So let's get some more analysis, shall we? Vernon and the gang.
Thanks, Jack. Very bubbly. And the reason why he's very bubbly is because that was a very exciting qualifying session, Karun.
It really was. I mean, we saw some brilliant laps. Dan Ticktum, Jake Hughes, Sam Bird early on. Was a little bit disappointed, I think, in the duels to get knocked out, but in the end, Sebastian Buemi was the one who delivered when it mattered.
And it was a really emotional interview that he did with Nicky. You know, when a driver, when any professional, in any sport, in any occupation, come to think of it, says, I had doubts about myself. That's a tough place to be.
Yeah, and, you know, as Jack alluded to in commentary, he was doing well in sports cars and other categories and stuff, but it just wasn't happening for him in Formula E with Nissan for the last couple of years. Change of environment, change of team, and, you know, they're off to a good start.
What do you make of this relationship between the factory team and the customer team, the Jaguar powertrain that these two cars have got, the Envision and the Jag?
Well, I think importantly for the powertrain team, they've had a really strong day so far, really. You know, if you compare, Mexico wasn't great. Okay, they got points, but they weren't up there, and they weren't looking particularly happy with reliability either. Thus far, fingers crossed, of course, because still got the race to go. But thus far, on both fronts, performance and reliability, all 4 cars very competitive. Both Evans and Bird in the duels. Cassidy was the only weak link out of those 4 so far. But yeah, I think they'll be very happy so far.
And once again, we have a wily old fox at the front of the grid, Karun. The old boys are still teaching the young uns a thing or two.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be particularly impressed with you guys keep calling them old boys. But
they've been in this racing series since day zero.
100 races apparently.
Exactly. There you go.
But for me, I think my star performer today is Jake Hughes. You know, this is a tough track. There's 21 corners in 2.5K. They come at you thick and fast. It looks like a real challenge. And he's come here as a rookie and put it on the front row. So I think that's actually the standout performance today.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers have saying how physically demanding this track is, with exactly what you've explained there. Maximilian Gunter had a huge shunt in qualifying, and disappointing to see, because the actual despair in the garage was, I mean, you could smell it, you could feel it, you could hear it. It was horrific.
Well, and then Mortara shunted as well.
Yeah,
so it just
one
added
did the
to their
front, one did the back.
I know. I mean, they've got a big job on their hands to cobble together 2 cars to make it to the race. You know, we got less than, what do we know, less than 3 hours to the race.
We can see it here.
Look at the replay. This was first Gunter. That's a heavy whack going in forwards into the Tech Pro barrier. James Roster was looking pretty stressed then, and then
shocker.
Very soon afterwards, Mortara whacked the rear end of the car. So, yeah, not a good day for them. I mean, we haven't had a chance to pop down there, but I imagine they're well up against it to make it to the race.
Let's bring Sebastian in. Here he is. He's on his phone at the moment. I've no doubt he's messaging all his mates. Smack it on Instagram. That's what you're doing there. Put it on Paul. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Really emotional interview that you did there with Nikki. Questioning yourself in the past whether you've still got it. You obviously have. But were those dark days? I don't want to delve too much into it, but were you feeling, is this still for me?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you know, you start to question yourself. You know, we've been through a lot of success with my previous team. Obviously, it was tough at the end, and then when you lose the trust and, you know, you get questioned, and it's tough, you know. So, you know, I feel this year I'm out there just to prove something. I'm not there for anything else, you know.
Your eyes have illuminated.
Yeah, I'm there to prove them, you know, because I'm somehow a bit sad how things ended last year, but in the end, you know, I'm happy. It's just a qualifying, you know, it's not much, but at least it shows that if I've got the car, you know, I can still do it. So we'll see what we can do in the race.
Yeah, nice.
Well, let's talk about the race, because the Jaguar powertrain, I mean, 3 of the cars made it to the Duels. So I guess on this track, it's working well. How confident are you from a power standpoint for the race?
Yeah, so to be honest, it's still a bit early to say, because we had that race in Mexico. I felt like I was quite efficient, but it's just one race. You know, people are learning fast. Obviously, with the 4-wheel recovery system, it's a bit different than before. Normally here, it's not easy to pass. So, you know, with the reduction of 1 kilowatt compared to what was expected, it made the saving a bit worse. But from the tests we've had in FP1 and FP2, we were okay. So, you know, we still need to build up a little bit the confidence and the trust.
All right, Seb, we're going to show you your duel. Okay, take a look and talk us through it when it comes up on the monitor, because there is a slight delay on our monitor. Off you go.
Yeah. That's the end of the lap or the start of the lap?
Start.
Yeah, start, yeah.
Oh, the last moment, sorry.
Yeah.
The end. Oh, that's the end.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, I would say the first and second sector were not great, but then I brake really late in 16, you know, where Edo had the accident, and I was really close to to go in the dust. The thing is, that corner is so long that you always feel like you brake too early because it's very long. So I said, okay, I've got to brake late. And then I did a bit the same in 18, and I still stayed on the good line. If you go off, you have no grip. So I was kind of lucky, because I think I made up a bit of lap time towards the end of the lap.
With the temperature now dropping for the race, you know, later on, how's that going to be? Because we've heard drivers up and down the pit lane saying it's difficult to get the tires warmed up. You guys haven't got the opportunity to get the tires up before. So talk to me about the opening lap, because it looks like it's going to be a bit tricky for everyone.
Yeah, it could well be. I mean, I think it's going to be the first time we do, obviously, a race when it's so cold. And we're going to have to take it a bit easy maybe in the first 2 laps. But I guess, you know, it will be a learning curve for everyone. It's still new, but of course, maybe a bit more cautious in the first 2
It helps that you have a rookie next to you, maybe, huh?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, we'll see.
Wow, okay. Sebastian, congratulations.
Thank you, man.
All the best.
Well
Good to
done.
see you at the front. All right, so Sam Bird is with Nikki Shields.
So Sam Bird, you'll be starting from P3 on the grid, just missing out going into the finals there. I think just a 10th between you and Sebastian Buemi.
Yeah, Seb's been driving really well all weekend, and fair play to him. It's great that the Jaguar powertrains are doing a really good job. So really, really chuffed for him, chuffed for the group as well, because there's been a lot of effort gone on behind the scenes to try and get the Jag up and running, and she's now up and running and fast.
Good. It must be a bit of a relief to finally see the pace and performance from the car that we've expected to see you at the start of the season.
We've seen it in testing. We know it's there, but we're combating other things as well. Like we just need to make sure that the car remains on the track for the entirety of sessions and the entirety of the race. So if we can do that, I think that we can be in a good window.
What's the sort of the biggest change that you've made to the car since the start of FP1 going into qualifying today?
Genuinely, nothing. No changes. We put it on the ground and we sent it, and yeah, that's the secret.
Oh, well, there we go. It's all about the driver, isn't it, then?
Oh, I don't know about that, Nikki. Did you watch last year?
All right, well, we hope the success continues here once again for you here in Diriyah. That's Sam Bird for you, with a smile on his face, which is nice to see.
Right, Max's car has just arrived. Front right looks like it's in bits. The rear looks okay. It may be, you know, Edo did the rear of his car. Max has done the front. Maybe they can put those two cars together and just build a completely new one.
Well, so what? You build one car up, which driver's going to be in it?
Well, toss a coin.
Which one would you build up?
Toss a coin. Whoever did the fastest lap before they both wrote off their cars, I guess, is the best way to do it.
Why don't you go speak to James Roster? Give him that suggestion.
I'll give him my 10 pence worth, shall I?
I think it's important to note that it's not just a front suspension anymore. There's a whole new drivetrain and regen system.
That's a very good point.
This car that they have to repair. So
Oliver, yeah.
Well, most importantly, they've got to keep an eye on the monocoque. You could see there, if we get Matt to spin the camera around, that's what these mechanics are looking at, is whether there's any damage to the monocoque. James Roster's just here at the front as well. That's the first thing they need to assess. If the monocoque is the base of the car, basically, that everything else bolts onto. So if the monocoque is damaged, then there's no way he's going to be racing today. There's just, that's an 8-9 hour job. So that's what these people are now assessing. The FIA here as well, because from a safety perspective, they've got to make sure that the car is in a safe condition and the tub is in a safe condition.
Yeah, it doesn't look that good. I mean, come on in, Karun. You sneak in here. You tell us what you see from the off. And Oliver, you do the same. You just describe what you're seeing.
I see a lot of broken parts.
Yeah, absolutely.
As soon as this team saw the impact, they were looking to try and get any glimpse of which parts that need to be replaced. A lot of this car is very badly damaged, as you see. So mainly on the right front, the impact there in turn 11, locking the brakes and sending him into the impact. Fortunately, he's okay. But the lows of lows and motor racing here at Maserati.
Yeah, I mean, James, what do you reckon?
Looking at that, I'm going to say Max won't be out in the race today. It seems like there's a bit of damage to the tub, so we're going to have to do a chassis change. Bit complicated at the moment, as we're obviously missing a few parts from Spark, so the spare chassis is not in a normal situation where it would just be a case of bolting the powertrain onto the new one. So we're going to have to rebuild a new chassis, basically.
All right, bad luck. Thank you for chatting with us. That's not good.
That's not good at all, is it? When you lose one of your cars in the race, especially it's only the second race of the season, we know that all points are pivotal to success in Formula E, because it really is.
It's a double race weekend as well.
Exactly.
So there's a question about tomorrow.
I'm gutted for them because the car's a mess.
Yeah, but, let's move on to happier times further down the pit lane, because we've only got a few seconds to go and the race is in 2.5 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. 7:30 local time. Make sure you join us a little bit later on. It's going to be epic under the lights here in Diriyah, Saudi Arabia. We will see you then. Make sure you join us.
New era of Formula E. All 5 lights are off. And there's the attack. Whoa, super deep. Confident, and he's got it. That was a huge moment. Brand new car, brand new season. And we go green in Diriyah.